Good afternoon, and welcome to our regular Tuesday show today. I am Karen Seitz, and I'm a mentor and teacher for married women to teach them how to find their happiness within as a way to save their marriage and finally have the marriage that they always dreamed of. And today I'm here with David Cope, the founder of a New Life Center. Hi, David. How are you doing today?
I'm having a nice day. It's a beautiful December day in
Mhm.
Denver, Colorado, and I'm looking forward to the holiday season coming up, and that's kind of part of what we're going to be talking about today. So my name is David Cope, and I'm the founder of a New Life Center with my partner Peggy. And I got interested in relationships after my divorce, uh, trying to figure out what I did wrong and how to create a loving and intimate relationship with my next partner, who is Peggy, my co founder of a New Life Center. And I spent years trying to figure out what is it that takes um, couples to have a loving and intimate relationship. And finally realized it starts with me, that in order to have a loving and intimate relationship with Peggy, I have to have a loving and intimate relationship with myself. So Peggy and I, for the last 10 years, have been teaching other people, men and women, how to connect with themselves, to build a relationship with themselves so they can feel good and happy on the inside and bring that to their relationship so they can have the foundation for a successful and healthy, happy marriage. So, what are we talking about today, Karen?
We're talking about why Christmas never really makes you happy. And we're going to tie that in to help people see using Christmas as an example to see how that shows us how we're unhappy in our marriage or how we want our husbands to make us happy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that, yeah. So one of the challenges that we have, Karen, is either women say, "Oh, I love Christmas,"
Hmm.
or women will say, "Oh, I really don't like Christmas time. It's stressful, and I'm running around, and there's too much to do, and I just can't wait to get it over."
Yep.
So, can you talk about these two types of people that
Yeah.
either know they're unhappy, or they think they're happy, and and how that ties into Christmas?
Absolutely. So before we jump into that, I'm
Oh,
going to
I'm
give
sorry.
a little reminder because it's always very helpful of our three principles of our Facebook group, which is going to tie directly in
Yeah,
to what we're
thank you.
talking about today. And the very first principle that creates the framework for our group, that creates the framework for what we teach, is that you are responsible for your happiness, that
Oh,
there's nothing that can make you happy, even Christmas, even the holidays, even the most wonderful gift or present in the world
mhm,
cannot make you happy, especially if you are unhappy on the inside. And so
mhm,
we have to be the ones to do that work, to do the things that actually create that happiness within us so we can find it and that it comes from within. The second principle is that you're the only person you can change, that we have no control over anything or anyone else outside of us. So that if we want to create change, whether in our lives or in our marriage, then we have to look within and be the ones to change. And the third principle
mhm,
is that authentic intimacy is really about having a relationship with yourself and feeling good about who you are. And for me and the work that I've done on myself in my marriage, that's what it really means to be happy, is to know myself, to have a relationship with myself and accept myself in my life
mhm,
completely, not wanting to be anybody else, not wanting anybody else's life, even with the challenges, even with the ups and downs,
mhm.
that I just want to be me. And when I deeply accept myself in that way, then I can fully bring myself into my marriage and share that with my husband. And that's where true intimacy begins to be created in a marriage.
Wow, that was great.
Thanks.
I'm glad you remembered to do that.
So now, how that ties into what we're talking about
Yeah.
today, um, is it really ties into that first principle that you are
Hmm.
responsible for your happiness, that there is no one and no thing that can make you happy if you are unhappy on the inside. And so that's why we thought we would talk a little bit about Christmas today, because it really demonstrates how we think if all everything goes right and everything goes as planned, that Christmas can make us happy. It's the happiest time of year. And so we usually fall within one or two categories.
Hmm.
Again, using Christmas as the context to see these things in ourselves. That either you know you're unhappy through the holiday season and you stay miserable the whole time. Nothing makes you happy. Nothing can make you feel good. Or the flip side of that, which is the way that the pendulum swings this way for me, is that you believe you are happy when really you're miserable on the inside and you're trying to cover that up and not be honest about that. And I forget the second part of the question, David.
That's okay. You did good. Well, I think the idea is to, like you said, Karen, is to look at Christmas as a way to better understand ourselves and how we're relating to ourselves, and use Christmas as context to understand that we relate to our marriage in the same way, and that for Christmas to make everything wonderful, everything is based upon external values of
Yeah.
what we're getting out of it and hope we can get. And in the second principle, we say the only person you can change, but in Christmas, what we really want is we want everything to change around us. So if, ideally, if things weren't so hectic, if my family was gonna, I didn't have to go buy so many presents, or if I didn't have to do all these things, then maybe I would be happy. Or the other piece is that we look to all of these things to make us happy.
Mhm.
Like, for example, the list that we talked about,
Yeah.
what were some of the things we had on our list that we externally expect these things to make us happy during Christmas?
Yeah, our family and having these expectations on our family, like everybody is happy or everyone gets along, that mom or dad doesn't say anything embarrassing, or all these expectations that we have around how we want our family to show up. Gifts, whether that's either receiving the gifts
Hmm.
that we want or finding the most perfect, amazing gift for those special people in your life. Um, Having parties to go to.
Hmm.
Our husbands are in good moods and they're on board with everything, and we're getting along. And that also this has come up quite a bit actually in the past couple of weeks and working with clients, where a lot of my female clients have a lot of expectations on how they want their children to experience Christmas.
Hmm.
That if they have a great Christmas, that will make me happy, and they feel almost this over responsibility of making sure everything is perfect for their kids and that they're having the best time. And we think those things will make us happy.
And so, can you explain this external concept? When we look externally for things to make us happy, we're
Yeah.
using those things to fill ourselves, and then we never effectively know how to fill ourselves internally.
Yeah, and how I like to explain this when I'm working with my clients is almost just recognizing this is the human condition,
Hmm.
that everything we're talking about is really normal. It's not meant to beat ourselves up or make ourselves wrong in any way. It's actually a way to understand who we are and our humanness
Hmm.
so that we can change and we can live the best versions of ourselves possible and live the best versions of our life possible. And without seeing these things, we
Hmm.
don't have a roadmap on how to live a different way. And so the foundation of all of this is knowing, and I think we all know this at some level, that no one and no thing can make us happy, that we have to be the ones to make us happy. And we've all heard that a million different times in a million different ways. But the problem is that we've not been taught how how to do that, how to not look for things in people to make us happy, because really that's just how we're wired in our mind. So at a New Life Center, what we really focus on is understanding the mechanics of the mind,
Mm-hmm.
and that the mind is inherently empty and void. There's nothing to it. And when we talk about the mind, we're not talking about the brain. That's an important
Mm-hmm.
distinction. But that the brain has the capacity to create what we call a mind. And how the mind works is to look externally to
Mm-hmm.
people, to things, to holidays, to beliefs, to ideologies, to fill that void and emptiness and try to make us happy. But the problem is that all those things are coming from the outside, which our external world is always fleeting. So the things we think are going to fill us up
Mm-hmm.
and make us happy never ever last. And so as soon as that external thing like Christmas is over, then we feel that void and emptiness again.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're looking to the next thing. What's going to be the next
Mm-hmm.
thing that makes me happy?
Thank you, Karen.
Of
Yes.
course.
So what we're trying to do is see how Christmas, we can use it as context, how we want Christmas to make us happy externally because we don't have an internal happiness. And how can we relate that to a woman's marriage with
Mm-hmm.
her husband and how she does the same thing in her marriage with her husband without realizing it? Can you segue into that and some of the things that women look to their husbands
Yeah.
to do or marriage to provide for them and
Yep.
how futile that is?
Yep. So this is I think this internal tape that constantly plays within us when we're looking at our marriage and looking at the problems that we're having and our disappointments or frustrations with our husband is that we come up with this laundry list almost of if he would just do this or if he would stop doing this, then I would be happy. And this is the story we tell ourselves. So, some examples are if he would provide security, whether, that's financial or making me feel safe or making me feel like he's always there. If he listened to me, if he showed me affection, if he was emotionally attuned to me, if he could know where I'm at and anticipate my needs and how to be there for me, um, if he would just communicate better.
Mm-hmm.
We tell ourselves these are the things that will make me happy, but again, they're all coming externally. And if I'm not happy on the inside, meaning I'm not filling that void and emptiness with me, then there's nothing my husband can or
Mm-hmm.
stop doing that's going to make me happy because that's fleeting. It's not permanent. And the real issue is that because I'm looking for my value or my happiness and my husband doing these things, is that I remain empty on the inside and I don't have any self value. And that's the real issue. And then the kicker for me always is the very things I tell myself,
Mm-hmm.
well, if my husband does this, I'll be happy, can then turn around and those are the very things that now make me unhappy. And believe it or not, these are the very things when I was unhappy on the inside, I told myself if my husband would just be this, I would be happy. So if he listened, if he showed me affection, if he was emotionally attuned, if he communicated, and my husband would try to do those things. And then that was the thing that made me unhappy. Oh, he's too needy. He's too
Yeah.
sensitive. He's too emotional. And when we're unhappy on the inside, it's like we always want what we don't have. So when we get
Mm-hmm.
the thing that we want, then I don't want this. This doesn't make me happy. Now I want that. And it's just this treadmill that we're constantly on and we can't get out of.
Thank you, Karen.
Hmm.
So, so what's the solution
Yeah.
to, with Christmas, we have these expectations that all of these things will be wonderful and happy,
Mhm.
and we create this Christmas atmosphere environment. But we're honest with ourselves, we're unhappy inside, and those things don't make us happy.
Mhm.
And the same thing in our marriage. We want our husband and our marriage to provide things in an environment that causes us to feel loved and appreciated, but it never works out that way because internally we have to find the happiness within ourselves and build the relationship with ourselves so we can depend on ourselves and be independent and not be dependent upon Christmas or family or presents or the atmosphere to make us happy, or a husband communicating or talking to us it, we have to be happy regardless of whether those things are happening or not, and then we can appreciate ourselves and our lives in a totally different perspective of appreciation and valuing ourselves. So
Yeah.
what's the solution
Yeah.
to this,
So
this conundrum?
it is. It seems really counterintuitive that
Mhm.
in order to get to a place where my happiness is coming from within, I've got to be willing to look at my lack of self-value, to look at the ways that I feel bad about myself, and
Mhm.
instead of blaming that on my husband that he's making me feel those things, or blaming that on the holidays or the Christmas season that those things are making me feel that way, to recognize that that's just me. That
Mhm.
if it's something outside of me causing me to lack internal value or feel bad about myself, then I make myself a victim and I
Mhm.
can never change because I need that external thing, my husband or the holidays, to change for what I'm feeling on the inside to change. So when I recognize that it's just me and I learn how to take responsibility for that and learn how to see it's just me. It seems really counterintuitive, but
Mhm.
by doing that and doing that hard work, I build internal self value. I learn to depend on myself and take care of myself, which means to do the things I know I need to be doing to make me happy. That I have to feel good about myself so that my
Mhm.
happiness does come from within.
Mhm.
And the first step in that really is being honest about what I'm
Mhm.
experiencing. So I want to share a little story of myself that happened a couple weeks ago where I had a lot shaken up around the holidays, and I tend to be what we call the happy pill person.
Mhm.
And so I was shoving it away and was pretending I wasn't feeling those things, that I wasn't feeling um, a little bit of emptiness or sadness or um, kind of a nostalgia for my childhood that
Mhm.
would shake things up. I was trying to shove all that away. And as a result, I wasn't planning anything for Christmas. It was like I was just kind of throwing it to the wind, like, let's
Mhm.
just see what happens. And the first thing I had to do was slow down and get honest that all that was up for me and stop trying to pretend that it wasn't. And when I can do that, then I planned what I would like to do for Christmas
Mhm.
and put that plan together, which was me doing something for myself that was going to make me feel good um, about myself and fulfill me. And so that was a good example of what the solution is. We have to be there for ourselves and do the things that are going to make us happy, um, and find that within ourselves.
So that's a good point, Karen. Thank you. Often, what happens is we look to Christmas in the holiday season to um, fill us up, and we don't realize that what you're suggesting is often women,
Mhm.
wives, do everything for everybody else to make sure
Yeah.
everybody's having a wonderful time and creating this holiday atmosphere. And the problem is when you're doing something for everybody else and you begin to feel resentful because there's no you. There's nothing that you're choosing to do for yourself, and everything gets done for everybody else. And what happens is you get overwhelmed and you feel like everything's on your shoulder. But when you do what you suggested, Karen, and what you did was, okay, what do I want out of
Hmm.
Christmas so that I can have the Christmas that fills me and makes me feel good, not in a selfish way of not thinking of other people, but choosing the things that would make your Christmas pleasant for you. What do you want rather than so what happened with you and your husband, and how what did your husband say about Christmas, and what did you learn by having a dialogue with your husband, and how did your Christmas planning change because you actually asked your husband? And
Yeah.
how did
So
that work
when
out?
so when I realized that I was shoving all this away and just avoiding making a plan, talking with my husband, having a conversation and seeing where he was at and asking him what he would like to do, um, I was really getting in my own way. And so the solution, or
Can I interrupt you for a second? Apologize. See, there's a nuance here that's really important. So most women will say, "Well, I always ask my husband,
mm,
and
yeah,
I always ask when he," but there's a difference between asking your husband and genuinely listening to him what he wants, and just asking him because you feel it's the right thing to do, and you're gonna do what you want to do anyways. What this is actually suggesting is that you actually ask your husband and you listen to what he wants, and you make a choice, a decision to accommodate what he likes in a genuine way, not well resentful because I want it this way and he wants it another way. Can you share that little nuance that's important in when you're making choices or asking your husband?
yeah. I couldn't approach my husband and ask him what he wanted to do if I didn't really mean it. If I didn't really want to know genuinely what it was that he would like and what was important to him. How I used to approach those things
Mhm.
was asking him that almost as a should. And what a should is doing what I think I'm supposed to do or what's expected of
Mhm.
me. But I wasn't interested at all in what he wanted to do. I was just going to twist it around back to what I wanted to do,
Mhm.
regardless of what he told me. So when I had this conversation with my husband, I had to come to the table open-heartedly, wanting to know what was important to him so that I can make choices around what I was going to do and also make sure that I was being respectful of him and what he would like and what was important to him, not just trying to get my way,
Mhm.
in short, which is
And,
how I always used to approach these things.
and so, what did your husband actually tell you that he wanted for Christmas or
Yeah.
wanted on Christmas?
Yeah. So when I talked to my husband and let him know what was going on with me and asked him what he would like, he works evenings and he's not going to get off work until late on Christmas Eve. And he said, I think I'm probably going to be pretty tired on Christmas Day and I might want to, sleep in and I'm happy to do whatever you would like to do after that, but I might need some time in the morning to just kind of rest and relax after a
Hmm.
really busy holiday season. And that actually opened a doorway or a possibility for me then to say, okay, I'll probably get up at my regular time in the morning and not sleep in. So, what do I want to do for myself that
Ah.
morning? And how do I want to spend that morning with me? That's
Hmm.
part of having a relationship with ourselves and knowing what we like and knowing who we are, so that we're not dependent on our husbands to fill that time
Hmm.
or to basing my experience off of him. And so I got to sit with myself and say, okay, what do I want to do? And one of the things that I love to do to spend time with myself is I really like to bake.
Hmm.
And so I asked myself, Karen, what do you want to do? And I realized, oh, I want to get up in the morning and I want to bake something and I'll pick something to bake ahead of time. And I'd like to put on one of my favorite Christmas movies and just have a cozy morning with myself and let my husband sleep in and take care of himself and then we'll see where the rest of the day, takes us and we have a couple ideas already formulated so we know what we can choose from so we're not just sitting there, I don't know what to do.
Hmm.
We have a loose plan so that we have some structure to the day to enjoy it together. But it started with having a conversation and being honest with myself
Hmm.
and also allowing my husband to be honest and respect where he's at and what he would like.
And what did it take for you to get to a place to not be angry at your husband because he's not, not excited for Christmas and he wants to sleep in, and that
Mhm.
ruins the whole atmosphere. And he's not. My husband has to work Christmas Eve, and poor me. How does that shift in being genuine and caring, so that you don't create this friction and argument that can
Yeah.
happen?
Well, it took a lot of hard work and continues to take hard work and commitment to myself to want to be the best person that I can be in my marriage, not just for my husband, but for me. And I had to be willing and continue to be willing because I'm not perfect by any means to catch myself when I am depending on my husband for some sort of experience of
Mhm.
myself, to be willing to catch myself in that, to be willing to see where, quite frankly, pardon my language, but where I'm being a bitch to my husband and putting my walls up and pushing him away. That when I can be open to seeing
Mhm.
those things because I want to be a better person and I want to be the best person I can be, not for my husband, but just for me, then I want to catch myself in those things because I want to change them. I don't want to be that person.
Mhm.
So being able to get to this place in my relationship where I can be genuine really has taken just a willingness to look deep within myself and to catch myself in the behaviors that create a nightmare marriage. And that's where I
Mhm.
was at. And this ties into everything we've been talking about. In order to do that hard work, to look at those things within ourselves, we have to be at a place where the pain of where we're at is much, much greater than the pain of moving forward and doing something different.
Can you
Because,
say that again? That's
yeah,
a good, very, very important concept that we teach.
that in order to do the hard work to go within and see these icky things about ourselves and
Mhm.
take responsibility for the bad feelings that we have to be at a place where the pain of where we're at, whether that's in our marriage or
Mhm.
anywhere in our life, the pain of where we're at has to be greater than the pain of moving forward and doing something different. Because
Mhm.
in our humanness and in our mind, we are terrified of change.
Mhm.
So a lot of time, the pain that we know is better than what we don't know.
Mhm.
And so we have to be at a place where it's like, I can't do this anymore. And that's where I'd gotten to in my marriage that pushed me to that other side to really want to look at myself and get serious about committing to myself to be the best that I could be. And and when we do that, that's where the change happens and that's
Mhm.
where we build the self-value. And for me, I was always a pretender. I
Mhm.
pretended to be nice. I pretended to be thoughtful and considerate of my husband, but none of the problems got resolved. They just got worse and worse and worse. And as I've applied the very simple formula that we teach, that if you're a woman with your walls up and you're with a good man, when
Mhm.
you do the work to take your walls down and show up in the relationship,
Mhm.
you're being who you really are and the problems get resolved. And it's
Mhm.
like magic. And that's
Mhm.
what I've seen happen in my marriage again and again and again. And it's a formula that works every single time. And my marriage just keeps getting better and better. And we have
Mhm.
more connection and we're excited to be around each other.
Mhm.
And it does feel like we're newlyweds. I had a moment last week where I was looking at my husband and welled up in tears because I was so proud of the man that he is becoming and the man that he already is and that I get to be married to him. And that's not an experience I was having for a long time because what I made him the source of my unhappiness.
Mhm.
And so when that formula works over and over and over again and
Mhm.
I get to see the results,
Mhm.
it's like, okay, Karen, let's roll up our sleeves and get everything we can get because it just keeps getting better. And the longer I push that stuff away, the
Mhm.
more and more I'm realizing it doesn't get any easier. It gets harder and harder.
It does. Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Karen.
Hmm.
Very, very clear. Can you kind of do an overview of what our call was about today and how
Yeah.
we're trying to relate Christmas and marriage and our husbands? And
Yeah. I
yeah.
think I can do that. So today we were talking about Christmas and how using Christmas as a kind of a window
Mhm.
into our own unhappiness to see how the same thing plays out in our marriage. That we look to Christmas or the holidays to make us happy, whether that's with family or
Mhm.
gifts or parties or how our husbands are being or not being and the experience that our kids get to have. And we think all those things will make us happy, but they're external and they're fleeting. And if I'm unhappy on the inside, meaning I feel empty and there's a void and I'm not doing the things to make me happy from the inside out, then there's nothing or no one outside of me that's going to make me happy. And Christmas is a really good example of that. And going to throw this example in. How many of you really think that Christmas is making you happy and you're so excited for it, and then Christmas is over and you just feel almost kind of a letdown, and now it's over and now what? That's a good example of how those external things we think are going to make us happy maybe make us feel happy in the moment, but then as soon as they're over or they're gone, we feel that void and emptiness again. And so then we're on to the next thing. What's the next thing that can make me happy?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we do in our marriages with our husbands is we tell ourselves if he did these things, if he provided security, if he listened to me, if he showed me affection, if he knew what was going on with me emotionally, if he communicated better, then I would be happy. And then they start to maybe do those things and now they're not doing it right. They're not doing it the way that you want them to. Or now that was my experience as my husband would try to do these things to make me happy. And then I'd be like, oh, he's too needy or too sensitive.
Yeah.
And it's just a really good example of how if we're unhappy on the inside, there really is nothing no one or anything can do to make us happy. We always want what we don't have. Um, and that's really what we're talking about and today. And again, it's to be able to start to see these things in yourself and normalize them, that it's okay. This is at the beginning of the call. I said this is really just kind of our human condition and how the mind works. And if I don't know that, if I don't know the ins and outs of that, I can never change it. So being able to see these things gives me a roadmap to the solution, which is to look within myself for my happiness, to build a relationship with myself, to open my heart back up, to take down my walls and start to be authentic and genuine in my life and live in integrity with who I really am, that's what's going to help me find my happiness within, which is permanent, regardless of what's going on in my life or with the holidays or in my marriage. Then I can always be happy, which isn't about feeling happy. It's a deep acceptance of I want to be me no matter what is going on in my life, that I value myself and I feel good about myself. And you are the only person that can do that for you. Christmas can't do it. Your husband can't do it. Your family can't do that for you. It's got to come from the inside. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
Beautiful, Karen.
yeah.
So wrap things up and away
All
we go.
all right. So if this is speaking to you and you're starting to see, oh my gosh, my life is showing me that I'm unhappy, that I have this void and emptiness that I'm constantly trying to fill, and you're tired of being on that treadmill and constantly thinking you're happy because of what's happening in your external world and then feeling unhappy and kind of on this yo-yo effect, then let's have a conversation. I would love to help you see how there's another way and what you can do, what you have control over to change, to finally have the marriage or relationship that you always wanted and to feel good about yourself and to really love your life and know how to be in it and have a roadmap and a manual to that we never got. Nobody ever got it, but you can learn it and we can teach you. So if you'd like to learn how and just dive into the challenges and issues you are having and get some support around that, then private message me and we'll set up a free call and get to talking. So thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. It's lovely as always. Appreciate your clarity. And also, just as a reminder that each of us at a New Life Center are true teachers, that we practice what we teach, and we're all working on ourselves, building our relationship. And it's always wonderful to watch you grow and change and be part of this experience of finding out the truth of who we are and building a relationship with ourselves and bringing that out into the world and all of our relationships. So thank you so much, Karen, and hope everybody has a lovely day.
Okay.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you.